Welcome to Diverse Learning Practices EdTalk podcast, where we are meeting the needs of all learners. I'm your host, Salita Divine. Hi, everyone. I am Salita Divine, and we are here for our third episode of DLP Education Podcast. And today we have a very special guest. I'm super excited about her. She happens to be my daughter. Her name is, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Nahla Trotter.
All right. And our episode today is to really unpack and uncover what it is that new teachers really want us to know. What do new teachers want? Veteran teachers to know, the administration, the district office. And so that's what we are going to unpack today. So, Nahla, how long have you been teaching?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. So she's still right there in that novice range of being a new teacher. So I think she's going to be able to give us a lot of insight for those of us who may forget what it's like to be a new teacher and really hear from a current new teacher on what it is that they need. So before we begin, I'm just going to test her out and see if she qualifies as being a real teacher at 2.5 years. So I'm going to ask her a few questions before we get into our main questions, just to see where she is. So question number 1 is, have you ever eaten lunch in 10 minutes?
For sure.
You have. Okay, good. Have you ever gone to the bathroom like during your planning time just to get some peace and quiet?
Yes.
Okay. She's 2 for 2. Have you ever smiled at students and then secretly kind of been like just falling apart on the inside?
Sure.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe smiling and thinking something else.
Okay, absolutely. So another question, have you ever retaught something and you know for a fact that you already taught that?
For sure.
Okay. So, y'all, I think that means that she definitely qualifies as being a real teacher, because we know that those are some things that commonly happen when we are in the classroom. So what I want to start with, our first question is just a lot of times when a new teacher comes into the classroom or into a school, they are handed a handbook or a big packet. And it's like, welcome to the new school year. And you get that packet. But I want to hear from a new teacher. What is it that you think new teachers really need when they walk through the door?
Probably proper onboarding so that they feel prepared on the very first day of school. So beyond just welcome to your classroom and start decorating, but really the ins and outs of all the systems, of the different curriculum that they use, and just kind of informal support so that they feel comfortable talking to whoever when those children arrive.
Okay, absolutely. I love that you said proper onboarding. Can you think of something out of your year 1 or year 2 that made you feel like, oh, I don't know this, or I don't have this, and I should have been onboarded properly? Like, what is something that you can think of maybe that you realize a little bit later, I didn't have this and this would have really helped?
I think developing my discipline ladder that happened a little later than the first day of school. So that was one thing that I needed to have. And then I think just all of the different materials, curriculum, the websites, all those things, of being familiar with it beforehand so that like it was easier to plan the lessons without learning to do stuff and plan at the same time.
Absolutely. I think that is excellent. Most of us educators have heard of Harry Wong's book, The First Days of School, and he talks a lot about that. knowing what you're going to do before you actually go into the classroom, what your rules and procedures are going to be, what the school discipline ladder is, and how to actually implement and create your own discipline ladder. So that does happen quite a bit. We're at day 6 of school, and then it's like, okay, now they're acting up. What do I do when that should have been established well before school started? That's very good. I want to know next, like, what was the biggest shock for you as a new teacher that no one prepared you for? You just were not, you didn't think about that. You didn't know it was going to happen. What was the biggest shock as a first year teacher?
Probably two things. Probably the first one is just the lack of support. Just really from the smaller level to the just people in the building to just feeling kind of by myself. And then I guess also probably the expectations that if I teach well, then all the kids will perform well. So that was a big like, that doesn't always correlate in that kids need extra practice. Even if you did teach it well, they need to game several times.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful for new teachers and for veteran teachers. Sometimes I think we've all been in a situation where we feel like I've planned this beautiful lesson, I have these activities, and they're going to think it's great, and they're going to be so excited about what I've done for them and all the time I put into it. And then when you get there, it just kind of flops. And so, yes, the first time you experience, how do you bounce back from that now?
Go home, relax, try again.
Absolutely. I like that because I know that was a shock for you at the beginning, but it does kind of continually happen throughout your career. Hopefully not as much as in the beginning, but it is something that actually happens. And the first thing that you mentioned was feeling support, like that surprised you, the lack of support. So I want you to just talk a little bit about what kind of support specifically. And remember, it can be from the realm of other new teachers that you have talked to. Just what kind of support do you think it is that new teachers really need from administrators?
From administrators, I would probably say first it needs to feel kind of safe. So I feel like at the beginning, I wasn't super familiar with them. It wasn't a close relationship yet. So even if I was struggling or having challenges, I didn't necessarily feel comfortable to voice those without looking or like I didn't know what I was doing. So I guess that was my fear at first when I first started. So I guess just building the relationship first before the formal observations.
Absolutely. Nahla, that is beautiful and very insightful, I think, to all of us. The importance of relationship building with your teachers is super important. And then the other thing I hope everybody picked up on is the urgency of creating a safe space. Just like she talked about earlier, sometimes she didn't, she realized, well, I need to tighten up this classroom management, but she's well within the school year. And it's not too late, but kind of a little bit. And I think it's the same thing with building relationships and also creating that safe space. That's something that administrators, instructional coaches, lead teachers, whomever need to think about on the front end. That should be a game plan: relationship building and creating a safe place, because no one wants to feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to sound like a dum-dum. And so I'm just going to keep it to myself and figure it out. So that is very, very insightful. What do you think are some things that schools do thinking that they are helping new teachers, but in actuality, it doesn't help very much?
Probably observations without authentic feedback. I feel like sometimes they will come in and say it was great and everything was wonderful, but it's not super helpful if everything is. It was like, I know that wasn't my best lesson, and you just said it was great. So probably that, just assuming just because you're new that you can't handle real criticism.
Wow. That is good. And that's probably a response that a lot of new teachers actually would not say. But I think it's very real. So, and even veteran teachers, I think, have a problem with this, Nahla, across the board of, somebody came in my room and they did an observation and they just left and I never heard about it. Or when I do ask about it, they just say, everything was great. Of course, you did 2 thumbs up. But you're saying that that's frustrating.
Yeah, it can be frustrating. And sometimes when you do get criticism, honestly, human nature, it is kind of stings a little bit. But I think just having that time, I guess that goes back with the relationship as well. You don't always like to hear things that you're doing wrong, but having that time to process and an opportunity to do better rather than doing something that is not up to the expectations and figuring out much later in the year that this was not what was expected of me.
Absolutely. Well, you all heard it here first. If you're going to go into the room and you're going to sit down and you're going to do an observation, the new teacher said, the novice teacher said, give me some feedback. I can take it. And I do think that that speaks volumes. And I think that probably, I said earlier, maybe a lot of new teachers wouldn't necessarily say that, but maybe so. I think feedback is an important part of the instructional coaching process and actually growing and developing teachers. And when you have a teacher who comes into your building and they desire to be the best teacher that they can be, then they are indeed looking for that feedback. So that is very, very powerful. So what are some mistakes that schools make unintentionally to possibly push good teachers towards leaving and or just being burnt out? They're not doing it on purpose, unintentionally. These are some things that you feel like make people say, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Probably a negative attitude, I guess, from teachers that have been doing it a while or maybe not satisfied with where they are, of just constantly expressing that. So I guess as a new teacher, it's a lot of excitement and hopefulness at the beginning, but it can be a damper if your coworkers are not at that, they've had that honeymoon phase already, but they're constantly kind of bah humbuggish stuff.
Bah humbug. Absolutely. That's very good. And Nahla has a video, and I'll have to share it with you all later. Some of you have probably already seen that video, and it's with her and another one of her schoolmates when they just finished their student teaching, I believe it was, and they were in the hallway and they were dancing and they were like, this is what it's going to be like. We're about to get our classrooms. And it was so happy, joy. And she's saying, if I can reiterate that, that don't take that from us right away. Allow us to be happy. So if you're feeling miserable or like, I don't want to be here, I'm sick of these kids, like when you have those new teachers come in, don't take that joy from them. There's a lot of joy in teaching. And then honestly, sometimes we as veteran teachers and administrators and coaches might need to self-reflect. If I'm coming to work every day and I am bah humbugging every day, then we might need to reevaluate. Because I think when you come before children, even as a veteran teacher, administrator, or coach, just call me crazy, I believe that you should be excited. You should be happy to see their faces. And so something might be wrong. We all have bad days, but she's saying not every day. Not every day. So when you think about your first 2.5 years, what are some things that you feel have helped you build your confidence over time? Because do you feel more confident from 0 year to now? Okay. What are some things that you feel like help build that confidence?
Really just the experience, I guess, of starting with one group and reflecting at the end, well, I really like this, I'll keep this, and I didn't like this, let me see how I can fix it next year, and making those adjustments and then seeing the product after. So just constantly being reflective, trying not to just give up on different issues, but trying to be adapt and try to be solution focused to fix the issue for not even the next year, but the next day, the next week, however, just always being reflective and trying new things.
Absolutely. I think she said a key word that we all need to keep in our system, and that is reflection. Good teachers reflect, new teachers reflect, veteran teachers reflect, administrators reflect, instructional, everybody should just reflect on what has happened and then come up with a new game plan. Tomorrow is a new day. And so that's very good. Thank you for that. Now, I want you to think about if you had the ability to redesign what new teacher support looked like, what would you do if you were in charge based on what you know about being a new teacher? And you had to create an outline for what new teachers need as far as support, what would that look like? What are some of the key things you would make sure you put in there?
For new teacher support, probably in a perfect world, a mentor teacher, I guess, like you said, instructional coach that is there consistently and probably there sometime in the summer. Summer pay would be great as well to plan and feel prepared going into it, but also as you continue throughout the year, having those planning sessions and conversations, like I said, being reflective, hey, this happened today, and trying to reflect, and then having someone to work with you as the year goes on and think of new things.
All right. She said that summer pay, that's the first thing. Like, let us come in for the summer, and hey, if you can add a little pay to that, a little stipend, that would be nice. But even if not, it sounds like just making sure that you have something in place where teachers feel supported along the way. And it sounds like what she's describing is somewhat of a mentor teacher and or an instructional coach that is very prevalent and available in that building. So a lot of times I feel like schools do assign mentor teachers, but I would say if we are going to assign a mentor teacher, then that mentor teacher should have some training on how to actually support the new teacher as well. And it's just one of those things that it's going to be long lasting if everybody has the support that they need to support the students and to support one another. So I think that's really good. So what do you think that veteran teachers sometimes forget about as far as it relates to being a new teacher? And I think you kind of hinted on this a little bit, but is there anything else that you think that people just forget about as far as being a new teacher?
Yeah, I guess, like I said, the honeymoon phase of doing it. I guess also just the weight or sometimes imposter syndrome that teachers go through starting off, and just the lack of confidence at times, even though it may be like, okay, their lesson plan is together and their class is in order, but still having the inner dialogue sometimes as a new teacher, feel like, am I really doing this right? Maybe this is not for me. Those little moments in the year. So
okay, so they should be mindful of that. And then how do you think if they knew that maybe sometimes there's this negative inner conversation, what do you think they should do to help support that?
I guess that goes with just being positive themselves. But even if it's not necessarily a positive day that happens, but just being open enough to have those conversations and to share their experience, so it doesn't feel like, oh, it's just me and I'm the only one that doesn't have this figured out, to kind of share their experience or different advice that they have.
Sharing their experiences as a new teacher. And then not making so many assumptions. And that kind of goes with that relationship building, asking the proper questions to begin with to see what the new teacher might need, because that can be very different from teacher to teacher.
Yeah, teacher to teacher. And then just teaching when they started and teaching now is very different. Even how they teach certain concepts, the different standards. So being open and mindful of that how they started isn't how teaching is today. So it's a different challenge to start in that.
What do you think too is a main difference than maybe how somebody when you started, like mama, when you started, it was kind of like this. Now I have to do this a little bit different. What do you think sometimes that disconnect is from generation to generation?
The kids are different. I feel like
the kids are different.
The kids are different because the world is different. What they're exposed to is a lot different. How they interact with their peers is very different. Even from me going outside and playing, like these kids don't do that. They're online. They talk to each other on the phone, on the game. So even that goes into like behavior and stuff. They don't know how to always speak to each other, different things like that. Those type of interactions and just a whole plethora of things. Just because the world is so different. So
yeah. And that's very insightful as well, just with technology in general. I will say, though, just from my generation to yours, one similarity is not that much of a difference is sometimes how students do conversate with one another in the classroom, how they interact with one another. And I can remember having a group of students where if we took just a moment and they just did a little chit chat, and we did teach bell to bell, but sometimes they did do a little chit chatting, and a lot of their conversations towards each other was very negative, or they were joking with each other, and they were insensitive jokes sometimes. And so we had to have a conversation, and we talked about how you should have a conversation with your friends. I was like, you shouldn't.
Compliment circles.
Yes. And so we ended up putting some conversation starters. Like if we do have a timeout where we can talk in class, this is how we talk to our friends.
Yeah,
and this is high school.
I guess that's the same. It's the same thing. So that is very similar, and they do need the conversation stems and just how to be a good friend, how to be nice. Those are different things.
Absolutely. And now we're getting into a whole nother podcast topic. But that was just a similarity between generations. Like that's just one thing that is the same. But I do agree there are a lot of things that are different. And veteran teachers and administrators, when you have a young novice teacher, we do need to be mindful of that things are somewhat different. But I did want to throw that out there about the conversation starters, because that's just a good tip for anybody. And we do have to teach the whole child. We do have to teach our curriculum and our standards, but being a good teacher, it's been said that you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a mother, you're all of these things when you're in your classroom. And so when we see that deficiency with kids, then that's part of our job too, to kind of squeeze that in. So I'm glad you said something too. What is it that you said you did to kind of
compliment circles with the conversation stem? So going around and just how to speak positively.
Good. Are they at the point where they do it a little more independently? Have you?
Yes, when they're interacting and doing different questions, that's a good job. You did great. And they kind of pick up on it from habit. So yeah, they do.
Very good. Very good. So as we close out, I have a couple of fun questions for you. Okay. Just to close us out. Well, I think they're kind of fun. Have you ever gone home and just really felt like question your entire life choices about teaching? Has it ever happened?
Yes.
Really? Really?
Yes.
Well, what made you get back in the saddle?
It's another day, another few dollars, as I like to say. Just a little bit. Just try again, and the funk will go away with some good night's sleep and some good food, activities. So just resetting, taking care of myself, some self-care, and then just trying again. But
and I'm sure your students are very grateful that you try again every day.
Yes. Try my best. Every day is a new day.
Absolutely. So another, I don't know if it's fun, but just an interesting question that I want you to answer for is, if you had a choice, would you choose education again?
I would.
Tell us why.
I don't really see myself doing anything else like I really enjoy. I think there are moments when I'm teaching, I'm like, wow, I'm really a teacher. It's a lot of kids in here, and I'm responsible for their education. And just those days where there are down days where they get on your nerves, or parents get on your nerves, or what have you. But those moments where everyone's just laughing and everyone's getting along, they are showing their progress, whether in their work or they're saying nice things to each other unprompted. Those little moments, it's like, I really enjoy what I'm doing. So,
and you get to make a difference.
Yes.
Instructionally, emotionally,
all of the things.
Sometimes spiritually, like the whole child. And what a grave opportunity that is. What an awesome opportunity we have to impact so many students day after day, year after year. And we can say that we are a part of changing and shaping a whole generation of students. And that's pretty exciting. That's pretty important as well. Yes. So we are glad that you are still in the game of teaching, because there are so many teachers that are leaving the profession like from 0 to 3 years. And you all heard it here first. She's at 2.5. So we're doing good. We're going to see how it goes. And she said she would choose it again. So I would like to encourage everyone, if you have new teachers in your building, make sure that you're talking to them and think about some of the tips that Miss Nahla Trotter gave us today as we approach new teachers. We thank you so much for tuning in with us. And we are going to be having a new teacher conference this summer. So you can see that on our website. And it kind of goes to what Nahla Trotter was saying here about actually allotting some time for teachers to plan ahead of the school year, just a few days to kind of get it together. So when you're in there, the new teacher is not pressed with, I have to decorate the class, while figuring everything out, like curriculum management and where am I supposed to be? And that's just too much, too soon at one time. So we will put the information about that new teacher conference down below. You can see it on our website, on our Facebook page, etc. So again, thank you for tuning in, and we will chat with you next time as we continue to meet the needs of all learners.
Click.
Thank you for tuning in to Diverse Learning Practices EdTalk podcast. Don't forget to follow and share. Until next time, keep teaching, keep growing, and keep making a difference.